Good morning and welcome to A Child's Life. Competition is part of our everyday life. It's not something that we can escape. There's competition in our schools, competition in the workforce, competition on the soccer field. But what about competition in education? Do our kids thrive when we have competitive classrooms or when we compare their abilities to others in their class or families? For this week's episode of A Child's Life, we're going to talk about competition in education and the benefits of moving towards collaboration. When it comes to competition in education, there are generally two camps of thought. The first one is that competition is an essential part of education that motivates students to keep them on track and always functioning at their highest. The second camp is that competition encourages extrinsic motivation, and when competitive classroom environments are fostered, it can affect a child's self-esteem and self-worth and moves away from a desire to truly work together and more towards the idea that classmates are opponents. Competition will always be part of education in one way or another. The key is to ensure that it is shaped in a way that a child can understand that it can be a healthy part of life and that it does not need to be present in order for them to be driven to work at their highest potential. In many of our schools in the Turks and Caicos, students are still ranked on their report cards, ranking that can occur in terms of subjects and overall ranking that can become very important to some parents. Now, if you're a parent that falls into this category, I really want you to take some time and think about whether this is healthy. It is healthiest when children understand that they are, in fact, their own greatest competitor. Strive to have your children understand that they should always be working to their absolute highest quality and that their quality does not have to be dictated by the standards of their classmates. So how does one compete against oneself? Firstly, this has to be a constant dialogue with your child. You want them to be able to tell you at the end of term or after a test that they have studied to their potential, practiced enough, paid attention in class at all times, and done their absolute best. These are the questions that should be part of your dialogue with your child, regardless of where their position is in their class. It's important to remember that a child could be in the top 5 of their class and not working to their potential. I often hear that competition encourages discipline and tenacity. Although I can see where this would come from, it's important to note that a child can learn to develop discipline and tenacity in other areas other than competition. This brings me to the benefit of collaborative learning. When we move away from competitive environments and move towards collaborative learning environments, children tend to feel better about themselves. They begin to work better with each other instead of against each other. This is an essential skill that we need in adulthood. Although the job market is a competitive one, forward-thinking employers are not looking for employees that will be competitive with one another, but that will work together so that they will work together as a team. The group or organization, when they're working together, that they can have a competitive advantage over another team or organization. It has also been found that retention, guiding principles, and concepts are all more likely to be mastered by students who learn in cooperative environments and not ones that encourage primarily competition. Cooperative environments create children that are more self-motivated, better communicators, better at conflict resolution, and have increased social interaction skills. Cooperative environments promote self-determination, curiosity, and challenge, which are all qualities that inspire intrinsic motivation, which is the motivation that occurs within a child to help them perform at his or her best. So as a parent, how can you reduce competitive attitudes on the home front and prepare your child for a collaborative learning environment at school? Number one, start by avoiding comparing your child's performance to that of a sibling, a classmate, or another family member, or even yourself as a child. Statements such as, when your sister was in grade 2, I didn't have these problems with her. She was always doing her work and came first in her class. I don't know what happened to you. We got to leave those statements out. Number 2, never make love or acceptance conditional on your child's performance. Have an open dialogue about your child's performance. Be sure that throughout, your child knows that you are ultimately their best supporter and just want to make sure that they are producing the best results of which they are capable. Number 3, be aware of your power as a role model. If your attitude is always to beat others and come out on top, despite the fact that you work as part of a team, your child will learn that from you regardless of what you say. For teachers, much like for parents, it is important to show unconditional acceptance of your students. Stay clear of comparisons, be a good role model, encourage your students to work cooperatively, and also encourage your students to encourage each other, and help them to provide helpful and constructive feedback to each other. Try your best to create an environment where all your learners will thrive. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of A Child's Life. If you would like to get in contact with me, you can email me at connect@yolandrobinson.com.